Hey guys, how's it going? You know how just last week I potted up all those seedlings and then I didn't go put any in the landscape like I said I was gonna do? I left them outside. Like, totally left them out. And then we had a freak storm come in and then it heated up and then we had another freak storm come and I left all of these seedlings out here. This is the first time looking at them. They don't look too bad, surprisingly. And I left them in like the full sun. So I was like pretty certain that they were gonna be dead. They actually look really happy. I guess I don't have to harden my seedlings off. I left all of these seedlings out, plus these seedlings out. And you can see like there's a little bit of burn on some of these. They don't all look fabulous. Like I left my loofahs out and I'm so glad that they didn't die. I was so nervous when I realized that I had left them out. I realized like last night at like 12 o'clock and I was like, I'm not going back out for these. You can see like they're sitting in water, but they all look so good. Even my tomatoes without even being hardened off. So that's really, really exciting. Since these look so good is to plant them outside. Like they're already living out here. These are the ones that were kind of my extras and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them, except for the loofahs. The loofahs I forgot. So I'm kind of figuring why not just take the extras like of these tomatoes, because I have 6 extra tomatoes. Well, way more than 6. Like 12, 13, 14. I have like 15, 16 extra tomatoes. I'm not going to use all of these, so I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to start these like 2 weeks early outside, and I'm gonna put them under a bell jar or under a piece of glass so it like makes a micro greenhouse. So should we get freezing temperatures or really cold temperatures randomly, they'll be protected, they'll be insulated. It's kind of what I did with my lettuce this year to try to keep the slugs away, which worked for the ones that I covered. So I'm gonna try that with all of these. Well, with some of these. I'm gonna try it mostly with the tomatoes and with the lettuce in the vegetable garden because I think this would be a really cool experiment and I've got them and they're just gonna go to waste anyways, except for the loofah. I was already planning on putting them somewhere. I just, I forgot about them. Let me show you guys where I'm gonna try growing all of this. So in the vegetable garden, I'm gonna come in here and I think I'm gonna try growing them just in this bed. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plant 2 loofahs and I'm gonna plan to like train them up and on this fence. I've got the grape on there and I don't think I'm gonna keep growing grapes this year. I just get grapes so easily. Like 2 of my other neighbors grow grapes and they bring them to us all year long. So I don't think I'm gonna grow the grapes anymore. I'm kind of over it. I'd rather just grow the loofahs on this. So I think I'm gonna plant loofahs here and I'll train them to grow back and forth along this fence. And then I'm also gonna do my tomatoes in here. So I think I'm gonna try putting 2 tomato plants in here and I'm gonna cover all of these, the loofahs, and the tomatoes with some glass. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a cloche. This is one that's been outside for quite a while, or also known as like a bell jar. This one was covering this lettuce. You can see this lettuce actually has started to like form up a little head, and it kept it really protected most of this winter from slugs. I've had the lid off this jar for about 2 days, so you can see there's a little bit of damage happening now, but made it so I got a little bit of lettuce there, and same thing there, and that one I took off like a week ago, and the rest of it has been destroyed. So I think I'm gonna plant the loofahs and then I'm gonna cover them with these jars. So this is just a simple bell jar. I also have some more bell jars there. And then this is a vase. I found that using a vase did the exact same thing. It was so much cheaper though. I think this vase was from the Goodwill and it was like $3. You can see it's thoroughly muddy. But using these vases that were nice and tall, great game changer in the garden. I had a few people say that they would be worried about fire. I didn't see any sun hitting any of this. I even have one that has this like ball on the top of it, and I thought this would reflect, so I was gonna keep an eye on it. I didn't have any problems at all. Maybe if it was like summertime, but I wouldn't need this in the summer. I'm gonna go back in with my cloches that I do have, my 2 of them. I just like how pretty they are. And then I'm also gonna use a vase. I think this will buy me some more time. I found that the heads of lettuce that I was growing, that I used the vase and the larger bell jar, grew so much bigger and so much faster than the one that I had in like a mason jar or in the small bell jar. There just wasn't enough room, and I think the plants knew once they had reached a certain size, they're like, there's nowhere else to grow. And so they stopped growing altogether. I even took the lids off of them and tried to upgrade them to one of these bigger ones, and they didn't perform very well. They just slowed down. So I'm gonna try to use my bigger ones, my big vases, my big bell jars, and I'm gonna try to use those first because I still have about a month's time until our frost date. So I think this should be a relatively easy project, and it feels nice because it is one that I've already kind of experimented with just a little bit. So let's get these planted. I do need to fertilize this ground quite a bit though. I was gonna do some work in this bed. I was actually gonna remake this bed to make it taller and bigger, but I already have onions growing in it, so I'm just gonna leave it. So let's go get these planted. All right, so we have everything that we need all together. I've got my trowel for digging. I've got the 2 plants that we're gonna really test this out with. I've got some starter fertilizer that we're gonna go ahead and throw in this bed. I've got onions that are already in here, and I know that they will already appreciate a feeding. I'm seeing them push out some growth, so I know that they're gonna be ready for a feeding here any day now. And I've got a couple of weeds in here that I need to pull, like right here. And this is a scabiosa from the flower field that we did. So I gotta pull some weeds really quick, and then I think we're gonna top it up with some really good potting soil. I need to go grab a bag of potting soil, and we're also gonna throw in some really good fertilizer because this will be so much happier with new fertilizer and new soil. I mean, this bed has shrunk quite a bit, and this is the like high side. I piled it high up here. It's even shorter at the very back of the bed. So let's top this up with some soil after we pull weeds, and then we'll get these planted really quickly. This bed is so happy now, and these veggies are going to be off to an amazing start. We're gonna be experimenting with our loofahs today and our tomatoes. These are the Bonnie Best tomatoes. I have never grown Bonnie Best tomatoes, and I have grown loofahs with amazing success, enough loofahs that we didn't have to worry about growing another loofah for years. I think it's been about 3 years, maybe 2 years since I've grown loofahs, and we still have a few left. So we're gonna do a big experiment. I think because what I really want is the loofahs to grow, I'm gonna grow the loofah under this dome, and I'm gonna grow the tomatoes under some of the vases. I'm gonna just do 2 tomato plants, and I think I'm also gonna do 2 loofah plants. I'm gonna do both loofah plants underneath this one dome. They can be grown extremely close together because they're just one long vine. They're not like tomatoes, where tomatoes branch out and create almost like a shrub. Loofahs are gonna grow very, very long, very, very fast once they start taking off and once it heats up. And I'm hoping that this gives them a really good start. So we're gonna grow loofahs in the very back of this bed, and then I'm gonna grow 2 tomatoes, 1 in the very back, a little further back, and 1 also right about here. So I'll have onions, I'll have tomatoes, I'll have loofahs, and it should be a really good experiment. If you're anything like me, where you start your veggies and your seeds way too early, and you also start way too many of them, this is a really good way to take care of that problem. I've seen other people not only do this with glass, I've seen other people do it with just clear plastic storage totes. Those big, huge ones for like moving and stuff make really, really great domes, and they still let enough light in, they trap the heat at nighttime, and they also help with moisture retention. So if you don't have any snow on the ground, and your nights are, you know, not freezing cold or getting too close to freezing cold, I would give it a shot. I mean, these are all tomatoes that I have here that I really would not have done anything else with, so we might as well give it a try. Good experiment, right? So I'm gonna just pick the two that look the absolute best, and I'm gonna pinch the other one out. So there goes two of them. And then as far as loofahs go, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. That one looks the best, and that one looks the best. Whew, I just ripped some of the roots off of this. Nah, not many, it's okay. So this bed has been completely fertilized. It's got brand new yummy compost on it. I did an entire bag in this bed and I've fed it. It'll be very, very happy, and it's gonna make for a really great start for these little seedlings. One of the big benefits about starting your plants early outside is that it's gonna get you a bigger harvest that much sooner. So while I have to wait, you know, 150 days to be able to get a loofah, or however many days it may be, it just puts me that much closer, meaning that I should be able to get a second rotation for some of these crops that I've got going in here. The earlier you get things in, the earlier you get your fruit. Let's get these planted now. I think I might have changed my mind. I think I'm gonna do the loofah as close to the onions as possible, and then I think I'm gonna do my tomatoes over here. That way, if I want some smaller space, I can give something smaller on the ground to something else. I know how big tomato plants get, so I'm gonna have to start them further down the line, because if I started it where I said I was going to start it, it would just block out all the sunlight for my onions, and I want to make sure I get a good onion harvest. So we're going to do loofahs here, so that way they can reach back to the fence and they can grow along both ways, left and right. And then I'm just going to zigzag them back, and that should be plenty enough trellis. We'll see what happens. And I'm going to grow these right next to each other. 1 and 2. So we've just popped the cover on over these guys, and that's going to give them some insulation at nighttime. So if we get too cold, they don't have to worry about it. They'll be safe. They'll also be protected from slugs and other bugs. Fresh seedlings are like slugs and pitcher bugs' weakness. They're drawn to it. So this is going to give me a little bit of protection. I've got it slightly buried, maybe about that deep into the ground. That's just going to give me that extra security that I'm hoping for on my seedlings. For them to be able to grow nice and strong and healthy, this should give them a really big start. Let's get our tomatoes planted right about there. When we grow tomatoes, we want to make sure that we bury them as deep down on the stem as possible. So I'm actually going to bury this tomato all the way up to these leaves right here. There's a whole bunch of little hairs on your tomato plant, and every single one of those has the potential to turn into a new root and give your plant a much stronger start. So if we bury this down very deep into the ground, all of a sudden I'm going to already have a nice healthy root system, and it's going to make it so that my plant doesn't, you know, topple over. It's not so weak in the neck. So this is going to give it a nice secure start. Big tip right here. Make sure you bury your tomatoes as deep as you can possibly get them. That is all done, and that was so extremely easy. I mean, it took me just seconds to get those things planted. Now, do I think that this is going to work? Yes. Am I relying solely on doing it this way? Absolutely not. That's why I still have seeds going inside my house, under grow lights, in the heat of my house. I'm in a sweater today and in pants today. So, I mean, we're still cold, and we still could have the chance of getting down into 32 degrees or even below 32 degrees in my area. We still have another couple of weeks, really, until that happens. Sometime between the 1st and the 12th of next month is my average last frost date. So realistically, it could happen at any point. And The glass helps, it's gonna be a slight insurance policy, but having those extras growing inside my house is an even bigger insurance policy to make sure. Now, do I know if these are gonna get bigger than the ones that I have growing inside? I don't know, we'll see. These ones have a ton of fertilizer, and they've got all the natural fertilizer that is also in the ground, because this bed's not very deep at all. While the ones inside, they're relying on me to give them fertilizer, and you know, it may or may not happen. I did pick up some extra fertilizer to be able to use on my seedlings with the intent of actually doing it. We'll see what happens though. So while these guys have the fertilizer and they've got, you know, everything that they need to start, they've got the daylight, they've got everything, they're good to go. It's also much colder out here than it is inside my house. Inside my house stays quite a bit warmer. The ones that are inside could take off because it's heated in there, it's warmer, and that's when plants know to grow. So we'll see what happens. This will be a really good experiment. Do I know it'll work? I'm like 95% positive that this method will work. So, you know, if you're in an area where it's already starting to wind down and you've already started enough seeds where you have extra tomatoes or eggplants or bell peppers or flowers or things like that, you might as well try it. Grab yourself an old jar, grab yourself an old vase, a bell jar that you find at, you know, Goodwill or any of those places like that. I mean, I picked them up from, that big one is from IKEA. So you can get them all over the place. They're not very expensive, and I think it's worth it. And I also think that they're really pretty in the garden. I do wish that I only had the bell jars. I wish that I only had bell jars that had the little tops on them, because I think that they're even more romantic and even more beautiful. Do I think an upside down vase is beautiful in the garden? No, but does it work? Yes. So this will be a good experiment, even though I'm pretty positive it's gonna work. It's not looking like we're gonna be having too many cold days on the forecast, but this will help them stay nice and hot during the day and a little bit warmer at night. Hi, you just had to come in. I feel like I probably repeated myself about 10 times. I'm gonna go inside now. She's feeling a little needy, right? You feeling needy? Kisses, thank you. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.